Okay, origin of champagne. So most people are unaware of the fact that the origin of champagne is more accidental than deliberate. It was a fact that when the fermentation, when the wines were being made and the fermentation started, um, uh, it used to coincide with the fact that the winter came quite early in this cold region. So around November and December, the temperature used to dip and the fermentation used to stop. So this wine, which had undergone incomplete fermentation, was bottled, and it was during the spring months when the temperature used to rise again. The fermentation used to restart. As the fermentation used to restart, one of the byproducts of fermentation is carbon dioxide, which used to get trapped in the bottle as the fermentation began again. And it was this carbon dioxide which was initially seen as bubbles in the wine, and that is where the bubbles and the sparkles came along. So it was more deliberate than more accidental than deliberate. I'm sorry. And earlier it was because this region is quite close to Paris, and there was a lot of demand for still wines in this region. So a lot of Chardonnay, a lot of Pinot Noir. This region traditionally was known more for still wines than for sparkling wines. So it was this still wine that ultimately was undergoing that incomplete fermentation and then resuming that incomplete fermentation in spring again, which led to that bubble in the wine. And then later on, it was like Dom Perignon and others who perfected this process and made um, what we now know as champagne. So um, champagne is quite accidental. It is a byproduct of still wines and incomplete fermentation. It's a very interesting topic if you actually want to read about it. But that's how champagne came along. It was never something that was intended to be. It was rather accidental. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the facts of champagne, and maybe some of this you already know, maybe some of it would be new to you. Champagne can only be produced in the region of Champagne in France. That's the you know that's really basic about Champagne, and that is something which they were very strong about. Um, of course, now it's even tougher and stricter. The rules are extremely strict. You can't even name a food product as you can't even have a label of a food product named champagne, because champagne is a protected name. It can only be used as far as making sparkling wines are concerned in champagne. You can't have a case where where a sparkling wine is being made and it's being named champagne. It's not possible. It's a protected name. There were times some years ago when something called Californian champagne what was stocked and produced. It has since stopped as the support for fraternity. A lot of Californian winemakers have stopped doing it, and it's no more being produced. So what you will have is Californian sparkling wine, not Californian champagne. So champagne would only come from champagne. That's something uh, which is the first point that you should remember about this magnificent beverage. Champagne is the most labor-intensive wine to produce. Absolutely correct. It undergoes two fermentations, and we'll talk about that two fermentations again. So first fermentation happens in either a barrel or a tank, depending where you are, which producer you are, and second happens in the bottle. So obviously, the wine has to undergo two fermentations. Obviously that's a lot of time, consuming, labor intensive. Um, Time, labor, money, everything involved in champagne is just to a different level altogether, and that is why you would see champagnes fetch top prices. Yeah, it's not an easy beverage to produce. It takes a lot of effort, and we'll talk in the next few slides as to what those steps are. Champagne is the most northerly wine region of France. As a matter of fact, I think, if I'm not wrong, it is the most northerly region in the world. Major wine producing nation, major wine producing region in the world. Of course, the wines being produced in the UK now, but Champagne is quite cool, very cold. And that's why you would have a case where a lot of grapes do not reach that level of sugar and ripeness, thus keeping a lot of acidity in the grapes, which is extremely important when you're making sparkling wines. So that's one more thing that we need to remember. Sparkling wines are generally, it's good for sparkling wines to have that acidity. Principal towns of Reims and Epernay. Reims is about, I think about 100 kilometers from Paris. It's not too far away, maybe less than that. So very close to Paris, and that's one of the more another reasons of the success of Champagne, because proximity to Paris has given it so many opportunities to send their wines to different regions, to the UK and other places. So that's one more reason why the proximity of this region to Paris is so important. 49 million bubbles in a standard bottle. Remember, guys, one more thing. More the bubbles in a bottle of sparkling wine, the better it's going to be. That means the smaller those bubbles are going to be. If there are 49 million bubbles in a standard bottle, you're looking at those bubbles at being very, very small. The smaller the bubbles are in a sparkling wine, the better the quality of that sparkling wine would be, because those bubbles wouldn't escape in the air as quickly as bigger ones would. So the smaller the bubbles, the better the quality of wine. Pressure of 6 atmospheres. So pressure of 6 atmospheres is almost twice of what's in your car tire. Your car tire has a pressure about 2.5 to 3 atmospheres. A bottle of champagne has 6. Not all sparkling wines have the same. Champagne is probably the highest one. You know, there are other sparkling wines which have 2 or 3 or maybe 4. But champagne, 6 atmospheres, that's quite a bit. There's a lot of pressure in the bottle. So you can imagine, the more the pressure, the more the carbon dioxide, obviously more the bubbles. That's why champagne is the beverage of choice for celebrations. Okay, so the next, I've just got a map of Champagne. We've already seen where Champagne stands, the map, the region stands as far as France is concerned, but I've just got map which will give you a clear indication of the sub-regions of Champagne. We won't go too much in detail because this is an introductory course. I would be doing an advanced version of this as well, which would be ideal for the advanced students, maybe the ones who are going in for WSET level 3. But for now, we'll just restrict ourselves to this. So Vallée de Marne is one of the regions, Côte de Sézanne, Côte de Blanc, Montagne de Reims, and Côte de Bar. So Côte de Bar, as you can see, I'll just sort of get my fancy pen. There you go. That's Côte de Bar, which is slightly away from the main region of Champagne, which is this. This is the city of Reims, and Paris is somewhere here. Somewhere here, I'm not sure. So quite close, you can see. And all these regions they've got their own distinctive personalities. They've got their different distinctive soils, terroirs. There are certain grapes that do well in a certain region, there's certain grapes that do well in the other. and and yeah, so that's gives you a clear idea as to, and that's a Epernay as well, gives you a clear idea as to these small sub-regions that crisscross the region of Champagne, how these wines would differ if they are being produced in either Côte d'Ivoire or Côte de Blanc. So they'll be different, they'll have different characteristics coming from different regions. Um, we will not dwell into it too much. Let me get my fancy razor here and get it off. There you go. Oh, lovely. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the grapes. What goes in a glass of champagne? Technically, you would be told that there are three major grapes which are used in making champagne, and you'll be correct. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, but there are seven fermented grapes which can go in a glass of champagne, which can be used to produce champagne. But these three on your slide here are the most important ones, and majority of the champagnes are made by these three grapes. Chardonnay, which adds freshness and elegance to champagne. Pinot Noir, which adds body and complexity to the champagne. And then Pinot Meunier, which adds fruitiness and floral aromas to the champagne. So all of these three grapes have different characteristics and give different kind of characteristics to the champagne, to the final product. Now you can have champagne which can just be made from Chardonnay, or just be made from Pinot Noir, or be made from Pinot Meunier. It doesn't matter if it's a black grape or a white one. We'll still be discarding the skins, which has all the color and which can seep into the wine. We'll just be keeping the juice for making the champagne. So you can have a case where the wine is made from 100% Chardonnay or 100% Pinot Noir or 100% Meunier. And there's a name associated for those kind of champagnes, which we will talk about later. But for now, these are the three major grapes that go into making champagne. Bulk of champagnes are made from these three grapes. There are another four grapes that are used in making champagne, and those are Arbonne, Petit Mislier, Pinot Blanc, and Pinot Gris. So these are the four minor grapes that are used in making champagne. It would be interesting to know that most of the producers in champagne generally do not use these grapes, but there are a few producers that either use all seven grapes or use a few among these minor grapes, and even if they use it, it's only a small percentage, maybe 2 or 3% or maybe 5 maximum, the blend that is being used of these minor grapes. Generally they're either kept out or used in a very minor way in champagnes.